everybody thinks you pick up the phone or you go and network with someone or you have a meeting with this person, and one time is all that it takes for them to just remember you and you just stick in their brain because you were that special. I hate to break it to everybody, but you're not that special. We have to be reminded of things. I say this over and over, probably for good reason. Adults have to hear things 7 times before they sink in. So making one phone call and expecting that that's going to get results, that's mistake number 1.
Hey, property management friends. Welcome to This Week in PM. I'm your host, Jeremy Pound, publisher of Strategic PM and founder of RentScale. You've been asking us over and over again as we share our scoreboard every month. How do people generate the results that you're seeing at the top of the RentScale leaderboard? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain. Our very own Jen is here to share the exact outbound marketing strategies that we're training on inside the RentScale community. And trust me, they work. But first, let's talk about what we're seeing this week in PM. I'm freshly back from Blue Ridge, Georgia, where we took the whole RentScale team on a 3-day summer retreat. Think whitewater rafting, zip lining, riverfront hangouts, just a beautiful reset halfway through the year. We're a remote team, so this is how we recharge, how we reconnect, and how we get aligned. And while this format may not be right for every company, I've learned from my mentors that getting your team together away from work always pays dividends. If you've never been to Blue Ridge, it's right on the Georgia-Tennessee border and is absolutely worth the trip. Now, right now, many of you are knee-deep in move-in and move-out season, and that's why it's a quiet time for in-person events in the industry, which gives us room to run a few webinars and put our energy into planning something big, which is the Strategic PM Summit. It's coming in August, and I'll tell you more about that in just a second. So the Strategic PM is half sold out. It's our very first ever Strategic PM Summit, and it's happening August 21st and 22nd in Fort Lauderdale. We've already sold out half the tickets, and prices go up at the end of June. We're bringing together some of the brightest minds in and outside of the industry. People who are challenging the status quo and shaping the future of property management. If you want to be a part of the conversation and not just hear about it after the fact, grab your ticket at strategicpm.com/summit before it's too late. And that brings me to Lance Lambert's market research. The real estate market is chaotic right now, and that's exactly why our go-to expert, Lance Lambert, is more relevant than ever. Your clients are reading headlines. They're hearing fear, speculation, and conflicting data, and they're looking to you for clarity. And Lance is tracking national trends, and at the summit, he'll be breaking it down in a small room setting where you can ask real questions and get direct insights. So don't miss it. And if you can't make it, or if you are planning to come to the summit, make sure you follow Lance Lambert on LinkedIn and subscribe at ResiClubAnalytics.com and get that data for yourself. Now, back to today's episode. Jen is joining us with the exact outbound strategies that are generating massive results inside the RentScale community. Whether you're just starting out or scaling up, you'll walk away with the ideas that you can put into action this week. First, a word from one of our sponsors.
Hi there. Did you know that RentScale hosts one of the largest communities of property management sales professionals in North America? Well, my name is Reese Register, and I'm actually a previous BDM and currently a scale coach here at RentScale. We provide over 20 hours monthly of teaching and training and accountability to make sure that our BDMs are supercharging their sales business through inbound, outbound, and allbound. So if you're interested in learning more about supercharging your business, go over to rentscale.com. We'll be glad to schedule a consult and see how we can help you transform your business today.
All right, I'm here with Jen Merritt from the RentScale team. Jen, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me today.
I wanted to bring you on because everybody's asking about outbound. What is it? Who's it for? And so before we lose anybody, for someone who doesn't know what that is or has heard the term and is afraid to ask, what exactly is outbound?
Yeah, I mean, outbound is just another lead generation source. It is when we are starting to pursue leads outside that are not inbound to us from marketing efforts. So, lots of ideas. We're going to talk about all of them today, but it's really a lot of outreach outside of your company done usually by the business development manager.
This isn't just cold calling, right?
No, it's not just cold calling. Although cold calling is certainly an aspect of it, it kind of depends on where the strengths of your business development manager are. But outbound is everything from events to networking to realtors to, it's a wide variety. And hey, there's some cold calling too.
Absolutely. Okay. So we're going to get into that today. I'm going to ask Jen all about what this actually looks like so you can leave this episode and know if it's for you and what to do exactly. But the reason I ask that is because when we talk about outbound at conferences or with our clients, I don't know, they get a little skeeved out when I say outbound. So why does everybody seem to hate outbound?
Yeah, people really do, right? It feels like this weird salesy thing that everybody's doing and like, well, I got to pick up a call and I got to make it. Well, okay. The reason that a lot of people hate outbound is because, well, they're doing it wrong. And there's two biggest mistakes that I see people really making as we start talking about outbound. So generally the first mistake is they're only calling all of their prospects one time. So everybody thinks you pick up the phone or you go and network with someone or you have a meeting with this person and one time is all that it takes for them to just remember you and you just stick in their brain because you were that special. I hate to break it to everybody, but you're not that special. We have to be reminded of things. I say this over and over, probably for good reason. Adults have to hear things 7 times before they sink in. So making one phone call and expecting that that's going to get results, that's mistake number 1. Second mistake is generally they have an expectation that they're going to close on the first call. So they think they're going to pick up a phone to a for rent by owner and they're going to wow them with some information they didn't know and bam, that person's just going to close. That's business right there. They're setting themselves up for failure. The truth about outbound is it's all about consistency and doing things multiple times in order to remind people of who you are. So that one phone call, while it might work, I don't want to discourage anybody, that could certainly work. Most of the time, rule of thumb is you can't expect you're going to close people on the very first call.
Okay, that makes sense because that is what people seem to think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, is outbound for every property management company? Should this just be an automatic item on their checklist?
I used to say that I thought outbound was meant for every property management company. And I would say, if you really reflect back and as we work with more and more clients and as this industry is getting bigger and better and smarter, no, outbound is actually not meant for everybody. I would say, if you've got average of about 1,000 leads coming in every single quarter, you may not need to put effort into outbound. You might be able to just handle inbound and you might just need an order taker as a salesperson. So maybe you don't need a true business development manager. Jeremy, the thing that I find though is that most PM companies don't have leads flowing in by the truckload though. And so that then basically necessitates that outbound strategy as an absolute need for your business in order to grow.
Okay, so I don't have 1,000 leads coming in. Let's talk tactical here. If I'm saying, hey, this may be one of the missing pieces I have to growing my business, let's talk about what that looks like. So first question, I want to ask this to set the right expectations for everybody watching this, because I heard your mistakes that people are making, and it doesn't sound like overnight success.
Yeah.
I heard that twice.
Yeah.
So how long should I give this to decide if it works for my company?
Yeah, so we usually say that outbound takes about 6 to 9 months to become effective. And when I say 6 to 9 months, it's 6 to 9 months of consistent effort. And that doesn't mean that we're making a call a month or even that we're making a call every week. It's like you have to be doing the activities. You really have to activity track. You really have to set goals for how much of each type of outbound you're wanting to do. If you do it consistently and you follow your rhythm for 6 to 9 months, that's when we start to see results come in. Now, I will say, I don't want to discourage anybody out there. You could absolutely make one call to a realtor who happens to have an investor right there on the verge, and you could absolutely pick up 1 or 2 here and there. But when I say when it's really returning, what I'm talking about is consistent results and lead flow from it.
Saw your hand do this. That makes me think of the flywheel. And the flywheel is hard to start spinning, but once it starts spinning, it basically keeps running itself. And that's where you mean the 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, where that flywheel's turning and it doesn't feel like this really, really heavy either ball or pull that you're pushing or pulling, whatever it is you think that you're doing. But that's usually when it gets a little bit easier and it gains a little bit of momentum on its own.
Okay. You convinced me, got my laptop open. I'm ready to start today. Now, I heard you talk to some of our clients and they were asking, who do I call? How does this work? I need lots of ideas. I got a full-time business development manager and I got an empty pipeline.
Yeah.
What are some of the things I can do right now to start Outbound?
Well, luckily for you, I brought all the different things that we're doing in our community, and I'd love to kind of walk you through. So, if I had to start somewhere when I was a business development manager, I really thought a little bit about my strengths and my weaknesses. And I think that this is different for every business development manager in our community. We have some people who are amazing when it comes to picking up the phone, making for rent by owner calls, telling them what's wrong with their listings, telling them they're not getting enough money for their rental, telling them that their description is wrong and they're going to get sued by fair housing. Those are the types of things that some people are great at. I myself wasn't great at that. So I started with events. We also have a client who has multiple locations and they are all about the realtor networking. So they're hitting that from different angles. There's so many different things that you can do.
Excellent. Okay. So do we want to give them more ideas?
Yeah, let's go through a list. What do you think we go through a list of all of the different outbound ideas that you can give? And then, maybe let's talk a little bit about what we need to do for each of these, or what a few of these more popular ones maybe look like. How does that sound?
I don't know. You tell me that I give our prospects way too much free information. And now you're literally going to walk through all of the ways that they can outbound and grow their company. Yeah. I do think it's great. I just think it's ironic. So
people are
going to let you walk it through. Yeah, I'm taking notes as you do this.
All right. So when we think about outbound, I always think about who can we network with, right? So we talk about our approach is the all-bound approach: inbound, outbound, and nextbound. Kind of in this episode, we're combining the nextbound and the outbound. So let's start by talking a little bit about the nextbound. Everybody knows about realtor referrals, what that looks like and who you call. But I want to pose to you guys that realtors are not the only, or maybe sometimes not even the best way for you to connect with someone and do outbound. At the end of the day, your nextbound marketing should be done towards anybody in the space who connects with investors or accidental landlords, or even self-managing landlords.
Whoever knows your next customer.
Whoever knows your next customer, right? So that's a long list of people. But if we were to name a few, why don't we say title companies, real estate attorneys? How about trust lawyers? How about anyone that's doing 1031 exchanges? How about your accountants? How about anybody who, because the accountants are going to know self-managers, by the way. Like, that's a really interesting one. How about we do HOA management, condo management, short-term management? Just because they're doing one set of management for that client, they might be more predispositioned to know people who might have long-term investments or who have multifamily investments. What if we talk with our lenders? So my recommendation here, that's the who, now you get into the how, is that you start list building and start with all of those different avenues and say, okay, I'm going to build out a list of 40 people that work in each one of those categories. And I'm going to time block and dedicate time each week to talking to that list of people. And it's a weekly outbound call to them, or it's a weekly coffee, or it's, something I used to love doing is I used to go into realtors or accountants or any of those people on that list into their office. And I used to teach their staff something that was going to make their staff better. So instead of going in and saying like, hey, I'm Jen, I'm with Mango Tree Property Management, I want to hand out my business card. And if you have any investors or self-managing landlords that you think we might be able to help, like, here's all the wonderful things we do. We have a 98% occupancy rate, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what we call that?
Show up and throw up?
Show up and throw up.
I passed that one.
So I don't want to give them show up and throw up. So instead, I would actually go in and I taught, let's just say, any of those people how to attract more investors into their business. My theory here was if I can teach one person how to attract more investors, they're going to attract 10, and I am only having to nurture one. So I always went in with how can I add value and make them come off as a more credible expert in front of their clients. That was always my strategy for this.
You throw out all those types of people, and I can't believe I think there's even more that you didn't say, which is really mind-blowing. Because you didn't mention probate attorneys.
Yeah.
You didn't mention divorce attorneys.
Oh, yeah, you're
and those are two people that are going to end up with assets that need to be managed at some point.
Yep.
But that was great. That just shows you that you threw out that whole list and there were still some other ideas. And I bet there's ideas that we didn't even cover today.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah. People sell themselves short on this next bound thing. And I think we think of realtors because that's what everybody in the industry is talking about. But like, get outside of that box and step into a more creative space. Because I got to tell you, realtors are taking the business for themselves. But you know who has no interest in managing the properties themselves? Divorce attorneys.
Yes, they're not getting in that business.
Right? They're not interested in managing those properties. So, just something to think about as you go out and where you spend your time, because it is all about time efficiency when you think about that.
I think about it. A lot of the people we mentioned there, they have clients that have problems that you can solve.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would agree.
Consultants and experts want to help their clients solve problems, even if they don't get paid for it.
And they want to be connectors.
Yes.
They want to have, even if they don't have the answers, they want to know someone who does have the answers.
Exactly. Okay. So we got a list of next bound.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 steps from the clients we want to deal with. Should I ask is there a way to just go out there and actually meet our next client, like direct to them?
Yeah, absolutely. And this was one of my, not only most fruitful activities, but one of my favorite activities. And so I used to, when I was a business development manager, host something called Passive Income and Pancakes. It was basically breakfast for new investors. I would bring in, it was never pancakes, because can you imagine trying to serve pancakes to a room full of people? But, I'd bring breakfast burritos or danishes or whatever, and then I'd have coffee, and I would give breakfast. I would invite 20, maybe 30 investors at a time. I would co-host it with everyone that I just mentioned in Nextbound. So they also invited people into this, and they also paid for the cost of these events. But basically, I would just teach someone about real estate investing. I would teach them about what generational wealth could look like. I would paint a picture of the future for them, get them super excited. And I would start talking to them about what tenants want and what areas of town they should be focused in. And then, oh, by the way, here's a realtor that can help you with those. And here's an accountant that's ready to help you with your taxes. And here's a lender who's ready to help you get a loan on this. And just start teaching people, especially with the stock market drop that we saw this week. More and more people are going to be apt to jump on this bandwagon.
Absolutely. How do we find the people to invite for pancakes?
Yeah. So I always loved to go look at Facebook groups. You can get it through BNI networking groups. You can also start pulling those lists from like the self-managing group, I mean, this is about being out there. So when I think about how do I get this, I think social media advertising, I think becoming a local celebrity. So people are thinking a little bit differently when it comes to like, hey, what do I do with my money? Not just real estate investing, but where do I invest my money overall?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of different things we can put on LinkedIn and social media that get people interested. I have 6 or 7 different groups in the state of Colorado that are real estate investors in certain areas. So I became part of those Facebook groups and I started networking there. I put my invitations out there, got a lot of traction on those groups.
That's great. I didn't see you going there. That makes a lot of sense because I know there's some other ways that we can identify people that are maybe self-managing or working with another property manager or about to put their property on the market. Can you talk about how to find those people?
Yeah. So I would say that for rent by owner, for sale by owner, sale listings, all that kind of stuff, those are great ways to target. So this is when people think of outbound. This is the pick up and dial the phone and what people really think of when they think of outbound. For those.
Yes, but we're not just cold calling, we're inviting them to pancakes. That's totally different.
Sure, especially if you're inviting them to the event. I don't disagree with that. If you're cold calling for I want to help you with your property management, I think that's different. But yeah, that's a great avenue as well. Don't call to ask them for the business, call to invite them to the event to help make them better in their journey.
Absolutely. Okay, I got lots of notes here. Is that it? Is that the only way to reach new people with outbound?
Goodness gracious, no. The list continues. There's also mail campaigns, and while mailing campaigns are actually something that we believe marketing should do, not a business development manager, it is the business development manager's responsibility to pick up the phone and outbound on the people that we are mailing to. Like, you should be calling. The point of mail should be to warm somebody up, right? And so when I mail someone, they've heard the name, they're at least familiar with what I'm talking about, and now the cold call is a little bit less.
So now I know the name, Jen. And when you call and you can say, hey, Jen, I'm following up on the mail that I sent you.
Yeah.
And I know that, I don't really know, but I think in my mind, you're not just an auto dialer, just calling. You've sent me mail. We call this omnipresence, right? And so now I'm like, okay, well, this lovely lady is inviting me to pancakes. I should finally call her back.
I mean, that's the theory, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're trying so hard. Obviously, we have something important to say, and we keep sticking in your mind. And eventually, it's like, I have an Instagram feed full of these types of things, right? Where like I pass it once and then like, oh, that little honey granola protein bar looks pretty good, but I pass it again. And then the next time I get on Instagram, I recognize it and I'm like, oh, now there's a blackberry flavor. I kind of like that, but I pass it again. And then the fourth time I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try these because they look delicious. It's the same theory, but that's all outbound to me.
Yeah. Repetition.
Yeah.
Okay. What else you got?
So I also think that business development managers are underutilizing all of the pipelines in their CRM. Like, that's outbound too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like past clients, lost deals, people that didn't end up buying from me, maybe even people that did buy.
People that did buy.
They might have other properties in their portfolio that I'm not managing.
Yeah. Passive nurture. I mean, that's the thing is, I think we look at active nurture as business development managers and we go, boy, I'm gonna stick to this pipeline that's gonna close in the next 45 days. And that I think is a huge mistake, because at the end of the day, property management cycle is about 30 days, but there's a lot of people left outside of that 30 days who didn't necessarily move forward today, but that's all outbound calling. Yeah. So for past clients, let's say you had someone who was unhappy with your service at some point. They thought that you were a terrible communicator. Well, it turns out that who they go to next is an even worse communicator than you were, and you actually had your stuff together, right? So you call and you follow up with that person, and they're like, dang, I thought this was going to be better. It really isn't. Now, not only do I not have communication, I'm not getting my rent check, and I just got hit with a giant maintenance cost that I think is way too high for what needs to be done. And they're like, I'd like to come back. Okay, great. Or you've got a pipeline of your current clients, and if they have one investment property with you, they're very likely to buy a second. Again, especially if the stock market keeps doing what it's doing, this becomes easier and easier. So we should be working all of these pipelines. Lost, my favorite. Lost is my favorite. Lost today does not mean lost forever. And so we should be, like you have always taught our sales team this, as well as me and any of the other business development managers, that even when you lose someone, you should be creating a next step 6 months later, and you should be following up with that person to see if anything changed.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm as aggressive as 30 days later, because I think sometimes, the grass is not greener on the other side.
It's not.
Yeah. Okay. Overall, what I'm hearing is it's a lot of peopling. We're going to be talking to a lot of people.
We haven't even scratched the surface, right?
Yes.
There's even more people. Think about social media and local celebrity and content creation and commenting on bigger pockets. I mean, it's astounding how many things that you can do to outbound.
That's interesting. I think a lot of property managers or bosses in general would say, I need you outbounding. And then I walk into your office and you're not on the phone, you're on your laptop, but you're on bigger pockets and you're responding to people who are asking for a solution in Springfield, Illinois, and that's happened to be where you are. And you're actually responding to that person, you're following up and saying, hey, is there anything else that I can help you with? I think a lot of people don't see that as outbound, but that's time well spent, right?
Yeah, it is time really well spent. And, I think a lot of the times people walk in and there's this maybe old school mentality, like, are you looking at, a clothing store? Are you shopping online? No.
Are you on are you on the LinkedIn
again? So much happens though online, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, you should be on LinkedIn. Look for investors on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Put up content we always say local market videos, right? So here's what's happening in Boca Raton in spring of 2025. Here's what the rental market's doing. Here's the areas that tenants want to be in, right? All that great stuff. But there's so much that we can do on social media outside of inbound and advertising that's all outbound.
Yes, absolutely. And we talked about the next bound earlier because we didn't touch on this on LinkedIn, but all the owners of your HVAC companies, your pest control companies, your plumbing companies, your handymen, they know your next customer. And the good ones, not the onesie twosies, but the ones with management structure, they have their own business development manager. And that person wants to network with you.
I agree.
Right? And so their customer might be your customer. And I think that LinkedIn is way underutilized in that what would be traditionally the kind of BNI network effect of all of the salespeople getting together in a sphere of influence, that can happen on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that at all. It's amazing. I think we could probably come up with 30 realistic ways that you could be out there outbounding.
Yes. Anything that we didn't get to cover?
Oh, probably, but I think, for the sake of time, we can stop the list there and say that if people want more information or something that we dive deeper on, happy to, walk people through that.
I'll put you on the spot. I'll ask one question about this because somebody that doesn't know any of this, we just dropped a ton of information on them.
I know.
What's the one thing, if somebody's at zero, they're doing none of this, what do you think the one thing that they should start with tomorrow? Because it's easy lifting and high output.
Probably the easiest lift from my perspective in outbound would be the social. Like everybody's got a laptop. I'm not saying everybody wants to post on social, but getting on Bigger Pockets and commenting, like that's pretty easy. All you do is create an account and tag your local market in there and start responding to people's inquiries.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you're not responding going like, I'm with property management company XYZ and we'd love to help you. Like, no. It's informational. It's try this, here's a resource for this. And down at the bottom, if you want to put a little signature that says you're with Mango Tree Property Management Company, to me, that's the lowest lift. A lot of people start with the realtors, but again, I think a lot of realtors are coming into our space. So I think that traction's it's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's going to be less and less, and we kind of need to branch out and do some different.
And it's a red ocean. All the other property managers are calling those people.
Yeah.
But they're not on Bigger Pockets. Right. They're not finding these people. Yeah. And I think you brought us full circle, Jen, which is a great way to do this. I asked, why do people hate Outbound? And you made the comment that they were assuming that they were only selling, right? They were they pick up the phone and they're like, would you like to buy? Would you like to buy? Same on social. When you get on social, it shouldn't be just like your little typing. It shouldn't be, do you want to hire me? It should be like, I'm a resource. How can I help you? The beginning of Outbound is always starting a relationship. Okay. And I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, it really is. And it's going to take a while. It's not something that happens overnight. And so if you want it to happen overnight, figure out how to bring in more inbound leads because outbound is not your answer.
Well, I got a lot of work to do. So we should probably wrap this up so I can go get outbounding.
Sounds good.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I hope you found that conversation very insightful. Now let's jump into the event calendar. As I said, it's a little bit of a quiet season. And so we're spending all of our time working on our first event coming up, which is August 21st and 22nd in Fort Lauderdale. It is the inaugural Strategic PM Summit, where we are going to be working with a very small group, limited to 40 companies. It's only for property management entrepreneurs and executives, and you are going to leave with a guaranteed plan to add at least $200,000 in revenue to your business in the next year. So that's being put on by Strategic PM, the host of this show, and RentScale, which I also am a founding member of. And we are putting everything we can into that event. So do check it out. Prices go up on July 1st. And so if you're thinking about going, now is the time to grab that ticket. After that, September 9th to 11th, we'll be speaking, both Jen and I, at the NARPM Florida State Chapter Conference. This year, it's in Hutchinson Island. It's just 90 minutes from where I'm sitting in my studio in Boca Raton right now. It's a beautiful part of Florida that is rarely visited and traveled to. And so I think you'll find it quite amazing. So if you're going to the Florida State Conference, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there, September 9th to 11th. At the same time, Arizona State is having their conference on September 10th. And so that is a newly announced conference. We don't have all the details yet. And so we don't even have the exact location yet, but if you're in Arizona thinking about going to their conference, mark your calendars for September 10th. Now, September 16th to 18th, Property Meld was having their very popular Property Meld Maintenance Summit. It's in Rapid City, South Dakota, and everyone that I've talked to that has come back with raving reviews. So if you're in maintenance or thinking about expanding your optimizing your maintenance department, make sure to check that event out. Lastly, we have another RentScale event, and we just announced this a couple weeks ago as we went to Birmingham for NARPM Southern States. So we are hosting another Sales Mastery. This will be our 8th Sales Mastery, November 13th and 14th. Last 2 years have been in Austin, the 2 years before that in Fort Lauderdale. We're continuing the trend of picking cities that your BDM will want to visit. This year, it's in Nashville, Tennessee. So it's November 13th and 14th, Sales Mastery. This is for anybody who's directly involved in the sales and marketing. So this was for your BDMs, this is for your marketing managers, and it's for your owners who are still doing all the sales themselves. So check it out. You can find it at salesmastery.live and register there. We still do have some early bird discounts. So if you're going to sign up, now is the time to do it. So a little bit of a break and then lots of events coming up in the fall. But before we wrap, I hope you got as much out of that conversation with Jen as I did. She gave you a ton of ideas. So don't try to do them all at once. Just pick one or two that really clicked with you and commit to taking action over the next month. If you do, let us know how it goes. Make sure to follow us at Strategic PM on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, or wherever you like to consume your property management business content. That way you'll stay up to date on the newest trends and what everybody's talking about in the industry. And that's what's happening this week in PM.